For thousands of years, humanity has lived alongside shadows, creatures that move through our world but refuse to be understood. In our previous episodes, we've traced the footprints of giants, followed the wake of sea serpents, and stood where impossible beasts once walked. Each time, the evidence has forced us to reconsider what we thought was myth. We are venturing deeper into that uncertain territory, where eyewitness accounts meet scientific possibility, and where the past may not be as extinct as we've been taught. If some legends became real when we finally look closely enough, how many others are we still dismissing too soon? The KONGAMATO. In the vast swamplands of Zambia, Angola, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, local tribes have spoken for generations of the KONGAMATO, the overwhelmer of boats. It is described as a massive flying creature with leathery, bat-like wings, spanning 4 to 7 feet, a long beak filled with teeth, and a reddish or dark complexion. It attacks fishermen in their canoes, particularly those who venture into forbidden territories near certain rivers and waterholes. The creature is not considered a legend, but a genuine danger. In 1923, explorer Frank Mellon documented accounts from the Kaonde people who identified the KONGAMATO from illustrations of pterosaurs, prehistoric flying reptiles believed extinct for 65 million years. They showed no hesitation, no confusion. They knew exactly what they were looking at. In 1932, while exploring the Jundu swamps, an Englishman named James Ward was allegedly attacked by a large flying creature that left him with a deep chest wound. Before dying from the injury, he described something that matched the KONGAMATO perfectly. His description was recorded by those who tried to save him. Skeptics suggest large birds, perhaps the saddle-billed stork or shoebill, both of which can be aggressive and have wingspans exceeding 8 feet. But neither possesses teeth, and neither matches the consistent descriptions given across isolated communities separated by hundreds of miles. The swamps of Central Africa remain some of the most remote and unexplored ecosystems on the planet. If a relic population of pterosaurs adapted to a nocturnal or reclusive existence, these would be the waters that could hide them. What flies over the swamps at dusk when even the birds have gone silent? The EMELA-NTOUKA. Deep in the Republic of the Congo, where the Likwala swamps dissolve into dense rainforest, the Pygmy tribe speak of the EMELA-NTOUKA, the killer of elephants. It is described as larger than a buffalo, gray-skinned and smooth, with a single horn protruding from its snout. It is aggressive, territorial, and feared even by the largest animals in the forest. Unlike the Mokele-Mbembe, which is said to be a herbivore, the EMELA-NTOUKA is a killer. It does not eat its victims, it simply destroys them. Elephants, hippos, and even humans who wander too close to their territory are gored and left to rot. Roy McCall, a biologist who conducted extensive research in the region during the 1980s, collected testimonies from multiple villages separated by hundreds of miles. The descriptions were identical. When shown pictures of various animals, witnesses consistently identified a rhinoceros as the closest match, but insisted the EMELA-NTOUKA was larger, more aquatic, and far more vicious. Africa has no native rhinos in the Congo Basin. The species that exist are found thousands of miles away in the savannas and open woodlands. But rhinoceroses once lived across a much broader range. Fossils suggest they inhabited wet, forested environments in the distant past. Could a species have adapted to the swamps, survived into the modern era, and retained its notoriously aggressive temperament? If the forest hides an animal powerful enough to kill elephants for sport, what keeps it hidden from everything except those who live there? The NINKI. Along the rivers and mangrove swamps of West Africa, from Gambia to Guinea, children grow up hearing warnings about the NINKI. It is described as enormous, serpentine, with a dragon-like head, a horse's mane, and scales that shimmer in the moonlight. Some say it has 3 heads. Others claim it can fly. All agree that to see it is to die within weeks. The creature is not a monster in the Western sense. It is treated as real, dangerous, and to be respected. Fishermen avoid certain rivers at night. Farmers will not cross specific paths after dark. In 2006, a team of researchers from the Center for Fortean Zoology traveled to Gambia to investigate. They interviewed over 50 witnesses, many of whom claimed to have seen the NANKA themselves, or knew someone who had, and subsequently died. One elder described encountering it as a young man, a creature 40 feet long, resting on a riverbank, its eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. He ran and did not return for years. He is still alive, an anomaly that contradicts the legend, but he insists the sighting cost him something. Years of nightmares, a lingering dread he has never been able to shake. Crocodiles inhabit the region, some growing to massive size. Monitor lizards, pythons, and large constrictors all exist in West Africa. But the NANKA is described as something else, something that predates colonial language. something embedded in the cultural memory of the land itself. Why would entire communities, for hundreds of years, warn their children about something that doesn't exist? The Jiba FOFI. In the dense rainforests of the Congo, where sunlight barely penetrates the canopy, the Baka people speak of the Jiba FOFI, the giant spider. They describe it as the size of a large dog, with a leg span reaching 4 to 5 feet. Its body is brown or yellow with purple markings, and it spins webs thick enough to trap small antelopes. The creature is said to be rare now, its numbers dwindling, pushed deeper into the forest by human expansion. Missionary Arthur Symes reported an encounter in 1890 while traveling through the region. He described walking into an enormous web strung between trees, nearly 8 feet across, strong enough to resist his machete. Moments later, he saw the spider that had made it, a creature so large he initially mistook it for a cat. It retreated into the undergrowth before he could react. In 1938, an English couple, Reginald and Margaret Lloyd, claimed to have encountered similar creatures while searching for a campsite. They described spiders with leg spans exceeding 3 feet, dozens of them, building webs in a clearing. The couple fled and never returned to the area. The Goliath bird eater, the world's largest known spider, has a leg span of nearly 12 inches and is native to South America. But fossilized spiders, far larger, have been discovered. Species like Megarachne, initially believed to be a spider with a leg span of 20 inches, though later reclassified. Could something even larger still survive in the Congo, where new species are discovered regularly? If the forest floor is so dark and unexplored that we still find new mammals there, what else waits in webs we haven't walked into yet? The MAMLAMBO. In the rivers of South Africa, particularly along the eastern coast near the town of Mount Aith, stories have persisted for generations about the MAMLAMBO, a creature that drags people into the water and drains their blood and brains, leaving behind only hollow corpses. It is described as serpentine, over 60 feet long, with the head of a horse or crocodile, and a body covered in scales or luminescent skin that glows faintly at night. Between 1997 and 1998, a series of unexplained deaths occurred in the Mzantlava River. 9 bodies were recovered, all bearing strange injuries and all found near the water. Local communities insisted it was the MAMLAMBO. Police investigated, but found no conventional explanation. The deaths eventually stopped, but the legend only grew stronger. Traditional healers claim the MAMLAMBO is not merely an animal, but a creature tied to ancestral spirits, drawn to areas of spiritual disturbance. Skeptics suggest large crocodiles, bull sharks that can swim into fresh water, or tragic drownings misinterpreted through a cultural lens. But the MAMLAMBO has been reported for hundreds of years, long before modern media could spread or amplify such tales. The descriptions remain consistent across time and geography. Something in those rivers has inspired fear deep enough to shape behavior for generations. What kind of predator leaves bodies behind that look drained of something more than just life? The SIGBIN. In the rural provinces of the Philippines, especially in the Visayas and Mindanao regions, people speak in hushed tones about the SIGBIN. It is described as a creature that walks backward, with its head lowered between its hind legs. It resembles a hornless goat or a large deformed dog, with elongated ears that can clap together, and a tail so long the creature sometimes holds it in its mouth. It emerges only at night, moving silently, and drinks the blood of its victims. The SIGBIN is more than folklore. It is woven into the spiritual and cultural fabric of rural Filipino life. Families hang amulets to ward it off. Farmers refuse to let their animals out after dark in areas where sightings have been reported. In some communities, powerful families are rumored to keep SIGBINs as slaves, using them to attack rivals or steal wealth. In the 1990s, reports of SIGBIN sightings increased dramatically during a series of unexplained livestock deaths across the islands. Goats and chickens were found dead, bloodless, with puncture wounds on their necks. Officials blamed wild dogs or large monitor lizards, but locals insisted it was the SIGBIN. Could the SIGBIN be a cultural interpretation of a real animal? The Philippine archipelago is home to the binturong, or bear cat, a strange nocturnal mammal that walks with a hunched gait. Monitor lizards can grow to a massive size and are aggressive scavengers, but neither explains the backward walk, the clapping ears, the blood drinking. If an entire culture has named something, feared it, and built protections against it for centuries, at what point does the legend demand to be taken seriously? The Bergman's bear. In 1920, Swedish zoologist Stan Bergman traveled to the remote Kamchatka Peninsula of far eastern Russia. There, in a land of active volcanoes and endless wilderness, the indigenous peoples told him of the Irkuyam, the god bear. It was not the brown bear they knew well. This was something larger, darker, with a skull shaped differently, a temperament more elusive. It lived at high elevations, in places humans rarely ventured. Bergman collected descriptions from hunters who had seen it from a distance, or found its tracks in the snow, prints far larger than any brown bears. Some claimed to have seen skulls, elongated and massive, that did not match known species. He theorized it might be a surviving population of Arctodus simus, the giant short-faced bear of the Pleistocene, a predator that stood 12 feet tall and is believed to have gone extinct over 11,000 years ago. Kamchatka is one of the most remote regions on Earth. It is a place where new species are still being discovered, where vast tracts of land remain unexplored. If a large predator wanted to avoid humanity, this would be the place to do it. No specimen has ever been captured. No definitive photograph exists, but the testimonies persist, and the wilderness of Kamchatka offers more than enough space for something to remain hidden, if it chooses to be. What kind of bear inspires the people who live with bears every day to call it something else entirely? The line between myth and reality has never been as clear as we'd like to believe. If this journey into the unknown left you questioning what else might be out there, subscribe and turn on notifications, because we're just getting started. More creatures are waiting in the shadows, and their stories deserve to be told.